Howl ye, for the day of the Lord Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord Yahweh cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 6 to 9. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodesh. Double honors to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Haran coming back at you with another lesson. Lord willing to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, what you see here is Kim Iverson, or who you see here is Kim Iverson on the Kim Iverson Show on YouTube. And it's titled, Trump Threatens Iran and Americans with War. All right, Americans is in brackets. Okay, and we're going to play this video. All right, it's not too long. It's 18 minutes, but I speed it up a little bit, all right, to get through it. But basically, this is, this is 2 days ago. Yeah. This is America or Americans, all right, the Babylonians that are finally waking up to the reality that America is actually going down. Okay, and as you're going to hear, she's going to pretty much say everything that most Americans are feeling, at least those who are aware of the reality that we're living in. Okay, that DJ Trump was not put in to make America great again. All right, he was just set up, as a man to be basically the fall guy. All right, to bring America down into the hands of, the ones who rule the world, known as the elites. Okay, and when you trace the elites, all those people that claim to be elites or are presented to the world as elites, they're all going back to the Jays, okay, the Amalekites, all right, which are known as Esau Edom. Okay, so another fulfillment of biblical prophecy of who's going to be ruling in the last days prior to the end of, all right, the kingdom of America, Babylon the Great. Okay, and that's what 2nd Ezra 6 and I believe 9. All right, let's see if we can get that real quick. All right, because it's just an indication. All right, there's a book of 2nd Ezra chapter 6. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9, it says, For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And a lot of people are saying that we are living at the end of days. All right, it's very obvious right now. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, and we'll break it down as we go.
People are not really, I just don't see how the Iranians are going to go for this. But I want to show you this. Are we going to go to war with Iran? This was a Polymarket insider. This person apparently bet, large amounts of money. This was a suspected Israeli insider account that had a 100% win rate on Polymarket, with all their bets being on Israeli military operations. And at this point, they've had a 100% success rate, betting hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're betting, their latest bet is that Israel will attack Iran by January 31st. So that's just in a couple of days. That there's apparently going to be an attack on Iran, that Israel will do it, Iran will probably strike back, America will be there to strike Iran, and now we end up in some sort of, potentially a war. Hopefully it's a war that only lasts 12 days like before, but the U.S. is there basically to...
And I'm going to pause it right there because earlier today, there was some reports, all right, going on that basically there's certain towns or cities that were attacked, all right, in Iran today. All right, there's also another incident of a so-called explosion, all right, that they said that happened in Iran as well. So there's a lot of things going on that, if you know what's going on, if you know the motto that these elites kind of use to make and wage war, all right, one of the mottos is going back to 1984, George Orwell's quote, and he says, I believe it was something to the effect of, the war is not meant to end, it's meant to be continuous. Right, because with war, they make a lot of money. War is a racket, right? So, they get to come up with all these different rules and regulations on how people are supposed to live, right? You have a lot of displacement, you have a lot of depopulation, right? Look what's going on in Gaza and so on and so forth. And it also gives them the opportunity to set in stone their so-called New World Order agenda, Okay, but yeah, earlier today there was a lot of information going on. All right, that there was some type of shit going down in Iran. So we'll keep an eye out and see what's going on. All right, with that. But let's keep going.
Israel as Iran starts striking Israel, because if Israel strikes Iran, we saw this game before. Israel's thinking, well, if we've got the muscle of our big brother or little brother, however you want to look at us, then maybe we'll be able to survive it or do some more damage. I don't.
You see that name right there, Rico Suave 666. All right, that's another form of vibration. All right, as is written in the book of Revelation 13, that the number of the man is 603 score and 6. All right, it's all synonymous with this beast system. All right, he goes into crypto and all that extra stuff. So, it's all right there. But let's keep going.
Thinking, but what I do know is that they're planning on marching us into. I want to show you also this. This was from a survey done in 2019. This was put on Fox News, funny enough, but it was a German survey from 2019. The greatest threat to world peace, and this is how Germans responded. President Trump being the greatest threat to world peace at 41%. Kim Jong-un.
There you go. Right? I think I mentioned this earlier at camp, and this was what I was actually referring to. It says greatest threat to world peace, and then they have it right there. And then Germany is a NATO country, right? It's part of NATO, and America is part of NATO. When you look at that whole lineup over there, the one country that is part of NATO with Germany is America. North Korea is not part of NATO. Iran is not part of NATO. Russia is not part of NATO. China is not part of NATO. So the one country that's actually an alliance with America says that America is the greatest threat to world peace. That should tell you everything you need to know. Okay, and that's all going into biblical prophecy. Let's get that in Revelation 17. Okay, these devils, man, look, everything that the scripture says is going to happen to you is happening. All right? Everything that the Lord says is going to happen is happening. And you look at one thing that I just noticed too, is that that picture back in 2019, he's the only nigga that's laughing with teeth out. You know what I'm saying? Sinister ass nigga. Everybody else, all the leaders look, serious to a degree. Right? He's the only nigga because he a clown. That's why. All right? There's the book of Revelation, chapter 17 and verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that the 10 horns represents the countries that currently make up EU. Okay? When you go back into the ancient times or during the time of the Roman Empire, those 10 horns, you had Germany. All right, you had Germania Major, Germania Minor. That was part of the 7 heads. Okay, but Germany eventually became part of the 10 horns. Okay, you had their ancient names. You had the Visigoths, you had the Ostrogoths, you had the Vandals, you had the Suebi, you had the Franks, you had the what's the other one? Oh, the Franks. I said the Franks. You had the damn. Yeah, I gotta go back. I gotta get back to that. But shit. What's the other? Oh man. Let me see if I can remember off the top. Cause now I want to say everything, right? You had the Vandals. You had the Alemanni. You had the Lombards. You had the Heruli. Who else you had? So that's what? That's 4? Yeah, that's 4 so far. Heruli, you had the Anglo-Saxons, okay? So that's 5. So you have 5 more. Let's go with the Vandals, right? Let's go with Suebi. That's we got 7 so far. Right, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head right now. Shit. You got the Ostrogoths. I don't know if I said the Visigoths. You had I think there's one more. I might have mentioned the Franks, but I'm gonna say it again if I didn't say it already. But those are the 10. Okay, Salakia for not remembering off the top like that. It's been a while since I went over it, but those are the 10, and then eventually they became what's today known as, you had the UK, which consists of England, Ireland, and I want to say England, Ireland, and Wales, if I'm not mistaken. That's the United Kingdom, right? and then you have Portugal, Spain, Germany, of course, is part of that. France, Italy. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch. But Lord willing, I'll do a separate lesson on it. I don't want it to deviate from the topic. But you have the EU nations, and then you have NATO coming together makes the beast. Okay, and according to biblical prophecy, the countries that make up EU are going to turn on America. Okay, so we're seeing the days that leads to that. And when they turn on America, it's not just, okay, we're not dealing with America no more, or we're just pulling away from the NATO treaty. No, it's going to be to the point where they're going to be shooting missiles on America as well. Okay, remember when we talk about World War III, these countries are major players in World War III. Okay, the Frances of the world, the Belgium. Oh, there you go. Belgium is part of the 10 Horns. Okay. As a matter of fact, NATO's headquarters is in Belgium. Okay, so they're part of the 10 Horns. All right, the Netherlands, I believe, is also part of the 10 Horns. Okay, yeah, when they as they come to me, I'm gonna keep saying it, right? But they make war against the beast. Okay, they band together to fight against America and so-called Israel. Okay, so it says here, verse 17, Revelation 17 and 17 says, "For the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill His will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled." So once the Most High's words are fulfilled, they're going to step back, right? And that time is now. Okay, we have the perfect person that's forcing them to step back. Okay, don't get fooled by the so-called meetings and gatherings that they keep doing together. Don't get fooled by that, because behind closed doors, the Lord is working on their minds to come against each other. Okay, so let's continue with this.
17%, Ali Khamenei at 8%, Vladimir Putin at 8%, and Xi Jinping at 7%. So they don't view the Chinese as a threat to world peace really at all, nor the Russians, nor the Iranians. Instead, they view the United States as a giant threat to world peace, and that's probably pretty darn accurate. Probably pretty darn accurate. But I just thought I'd show you that. That one was kind of funny. But, you know, look, we're...
And the reason is because America is known as what? The hammer of the earth. Okay? Let's see if we can get that real quick. There's a book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse 23 says, "How is the hammer of the earth, or the whole earth, cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" Okay? And that Babylon there is not talking about ancient Babylon or the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It's talking about America, Babylon the Great. Okay, America is the modern day Babylon. All right? So it says, verse 24, "I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai." Right? And it's gotten to the point where you got a lot of even Americans who are sitting back and watching the way DJ Trump is moving the country in the direction in which he's moving, and they're frustrated, man. Okay? They're frustrated with the way he's dealing with the medical sector, the way he's dealing with the economy as a whole, right? The money sector, the way he's dealing with this whole immigration situation, right? The way he's dealing with the housing situation, okay? So everyone is pointing to the fact that, yo, this guy, his policies is working against the Americans and their interests. And his ideologies, his things that he's standing for, is aiding in these technocrats and these multi-billionaires. It's not helping the regular American people, right? He's saying, oh well, we're gonna set a rate so that people who already have homes, their value could increase, or / they can maintain their riches, right? So your house is worth $700,000. He doesn't want you to lose your house. He wants you to maintain that, right? But then what about those who actually want to buy their house? If it's $700,000, how the fuck are they gonna afford that shit? Hey, be careful. All right, how are they supposed to afford that shit? Right? How are they gonna afford that? $700,000 homes? Nobody's gonna afford that. The regular American person can't afford that shit. Okay, so who's he really working for? Whose interest is he really, all right, working for, man? And if you tie it all in, it goes into the Adelmans of the world. Okay, just to name a few. All right, but it says here, verse 25, it says, "The Lord Yahweh hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation." And that's going into what? The nuclear missiles. All right, what's that? Isaiah 55. Okay. It says what? It says, for this is the work of the Lord Yahweh of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. And the land of Chaldeans is America. Okay? The land of Chaldeans is referring to America. Let's keep going.
On the precipice of going to war with Iran. This is something that Israel's been salivating over for a very long time. The biggest issue I see happening now, the biggest shift, I think the big consequential shift, because we've been at Middle Eastern wars before many times, and day-to-day life for most Americans doesn't change. We haven't really felt the impact of the consequences of our wars. We've left other people to die, children to die, people to sanctions, even sanctioning countries, forcing them to be living in the Stone Ages like Cuba, Venezuela, Iran. We've been doing all of these things, and we Americans have not really felt the effects. But I think this time around things are different. We are seeing a shift in the global mentality toward America. We're seeing Canada cozying up to China, saying we want to do more business with China. We're seeing India doing the same thing. Many of these countries are now turning to China and saying they're looking at China as the new global leader of the world. And they're wanting to abandon the United States because they're viewing the United States as a giant bully. Here's just some examples of us being a bully. This is outside of the U.S. Embassy in Denmark. There were 44 Danish flags, see them being removed, and a U.S. Embassy worker is removing these Danish flags. Now, these Danish flags, these 44 Danish flags, were set out there to commemorate the 44 Danish service members who died fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq for the United States when we called Article 5 for NATO. And Donald Trump is saying that Europe wouldn't be there for us, and yet the Europeans have been there for us. We're the only country in the world that has evoked an Article 5 for NATO.
Right. See, so America, again, the hypocrisy of this bitch. Okay? The hypocrisy of this hoe, man. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 6. It says, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. So there's nothing America can do about this. Okay, you're about to reap everything that you've sown. This isn't anyone doing anything to you just because you're a good guy and all of a sudden everybody hates you. No. All the years, it's been building up. All the wars that you've been at, all the death, the bloodshed, the destruction that you've caused upon the face of the earth, and you've caused death upon different nations, different people, different tribes. Look at what you did to the children of Israel, man. Okay? So just understand that all these things is going to result in the judgment and destruction of America, Babylon the Great. That's why this is all happening. Okay? We're at the time, as it tells you in the book of Isaiah 47. Okay? Uncover thy legs, the thigh. All right? It tells you that in the book of, let me see if I can find it. In Nahum, let me see. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find it real quick. Because all these nations, let's see. Is it the well-favored harlot? Let's see if we can find it real quick. Well-favored harlot. I guess it's not. Man, when you try to find something and it's just like taking a sweet time, man, it's so annoying. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's like here. There you go, Nahum. Yep. Let me see if I can pull this up here. All right, this is the book of Nahum, chapter 3 and verse 4. It says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. That's what America stands for. Okay? They've waged war. They've made people believe that they were actually the good guy this whole time. Meanwhile, when you look at the whole entire world, it's always been the Europeans that have always been bloodthirsty. When you look at World War I, it happened on the continent of Europe. World War II, same thing. Okay, World War III is about to happen around that same area, but this time the Lord says it's going to happen in the Middle East. And when you look at all the nations that's going to be in the midst of World War III, it's mostly European nations. It's mostly European nations. Okay, when you really look at the scope of it, it's mostly Edomites, and then of course the rest of the other nations. You don't see Jacob in the mix of that. We don't have no military power. We don't have no representation on the world stage. We don't. Okay. You're not going to see nobody pull up and say, oh, I represent the 12 tribes of Israel. You're not going to see that. Okay? Why? Because we're still captive under Babylon the Great. Okay? But Israel, the Jays, they have their own representation in the form of America. America is Israel by proxy. Okay? So continuing verse 5, it says, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. That's what you're seeing now. Okay, that's why the other countries are looking at America and saying, nah, man, we see through you. Okay, we see right through your shit, man. You've never actually stood up for righteousness. You just said it, and you made everyone believe it. Meanwhile, you were going around kicking everybody in the ass, man. Okay? It says, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. Okay? Let's look up the word gazing stock real quick. Gazing, right? When you gaze at something, that means to look at, right? To stare down, right? Intently. That's Isaiah 14. Is this the man that weakeneth the nations? Right? Everyone is going to see them, right? Let's get that real quick. Everyone is going to see them. Isaiah 14. Let's get that real quick. Right? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Let's get this real quick. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 16 says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee. That's that gazing stock. Okay, they're watching you. Everyone is looking like, wow, all eyes are on America right now. Because you're constantly, America and Israel, because you're constantly in the news. You're staring up some shit. You're everywhere. They look at Venezuela, this nigga's over there. They look at Mexico, this nigga's over there. They look in Europe, this nigga's over there. Look at Africa, this nigga's over there. He's everywhere, man. He keepeth not at home. Okay? And heapeth unto himself all people. That's what Esau does, man. And who can blame him? The scripture says what? The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. So in their minds, they have, like that clown Stephen Miller said, the president has plenary powers. Plenary powers, meaning he has complete and utter total control, man. He ain't no checks and balances. And that's the mind of the Edomite man. No one can stop him. It's not my fault that my resources are in your land. I could come over there and take all your gold and all your oil. And then arrest your president and his wife, kidnap them. And then if it's flipped over and it's told, hey, would it be legal? Would it be okay? Wouldn't it be an act of war if a foreign country came in and took our president and his wife and they stormed off and they said, hey, we're going to persecute you by our law? Wouldn't that be an act of war? And they can never answer that question. Okay? And the whole world is watching all these things. Right? So continuing verse Isaiah 14 and 17 says that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. And who are the prisoners? The 12 tribes of Israel. Right? Judah and Israel were pressed together. Everything, the Lord is exposing you devils, man. All right? So let's keep watching.
And this U.S. Embassy worker is taking the flags down. Now, the embassy says, well, the reason, they weren't allowed to be installed.
Hey,
they are on public property. And the U.S. Embassy says, so, they're giving all these stupid excuses as to why they're removing these flags. But it's very insulting to the Danes. This is in Denmark that this is happening, and these flags are being removed by U.S. Embassy. And that is only pissing off the Danes. That 44 of their men sacrificed their lives for us, not for them. Their safety was fine. It was for us after we were attacked after 9/11. And this is how we treat them. So the world is, this is just another example, a layer upon layer upon layer that we're seeing of the world saying, you know what, I don't know if you guys are the good guys anymore. I don't know if you guys are nice. You were supposed to be the Captain America, the heroes, the good guys, the one that always does the right thing. But here we are no longer doing the right thing. Here's another one. I got to show you this. This is Rand Paul grilling Marco Rubio over the kidnapping of Maduro. Again, this is America, the twisted mentality of the United States, not understanding how, we try to justify our actions. We say things, we do things, and then we try to justify those actions. The world just simply doesn't agree because it's nonsensical. Watch this.
Our founders debated extensively over which branch of government should have the power to declare or initiate war. Virtually unanimously, they decided, and what was entered into the Constitution was that the declaration or initiation of war would be the power of Congress. Now, we have many advocates, many of whom are here today, who have been advocates for an expansive notion of presidential power. They often argue that wars are not really wars, that they're kinetic actions or drug busts. I think, though, if you reverse the circumstances, it becomes very difficult for these arguments to hold up. So I would ask you, if a foreign country bombed our air defense missiles, captured and removed our president, and blockaded our country, would that be considered an act of war?
Well, I think your question is about and I'll acknowledge you've been very consistent on all these points the entire career. So let me, no matter who's in charge. So I will point to two things. The first is it's hard for us to conceive that an operation that lasted about 4.5 hours, and was a law enforcement operation to capture someone we don't recognize as the head of state, indicted in the United States, wanted with a $50 million
My
bounty.
question would be, if it only took 4 hours to take our president, it's very short, nobody dies on the other side, nobody dies on our side, it's perfect. Would it be an act of war?
We just don't believe that this operation comes anywhere close to the constitutional definition of
But
war.
would it be an act of war if someone did it to us? Nobody dies, few casualties, they're in and out, boom, it's a perfect military operation. Would that be an act of war? Of course it would be an act of war. I'm probably the most anti-war person in the Senate, and I would vote to declare war if someone invaded our country and took our president. So I think we need to at least acknowledge this is a one-way argument. One-way arguments that don't rebound, that you can't apply to yourselves, that cannot be universally applicable, are bad arguments.
And we, unfortunately, as a country, are full of these.
Right.
We are hypocrites.
Yeah, America, remember, they're hypocrites, and the whole world is exposing it. The whole world is seeing it now. The world is exposed. The Lord is exposing you, devils. Okay, Americans are hypocrites. Okay, let's get that real quick. This is a book of Isaiah, chapter 47, and verse 1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Okay, you're being exposed. America is a hypocrite. Okay, tender and delicate, but yet she's really not tender and delicate, man. She appears to be. She gives you the perception that she is. But once you get to know her, she's the biggest demon on the earth. And then you sit back and wonder, damn, I'm in too deep. It's too late. I can't really back out of this. Okay? And that's all they want. Get you to bow down to their system. If not, they make war against you. They demonize you on the world stage. Okay? And very soon, that's what they're going to do with the prophets. They're going to be on the world stage waging war against the prophets. And everyone's going to see and be like, nah, those men are not the problem. Y'all are the problem. But when you have technology like Palantir and, you got a Gestapo like ICE, there's a lot of shit is about to get funny. It's about to get real funny. Okay? So continue, it says here, verse 2, it says, "Take the millstone and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers." That's a form of you being stripped down. Okay? That's a form of you being exposed. All right? For who you really are. Okay? It says, "Thy nakedness," "thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen." All right, and that's think of how degenerate this society has become, and you still have women the females that ass will go outside with no underwear, no panties on, and have a long ass dress or a tight ass dress and just be walking around being a hoe, right? But let the wind blow up her skirt, she gonna fucking cover that shit up right away. Ain't you the one trying to expose your ass? But then the wind tried to expose you because it happened when you weren't ready. It happened involuntarily. So right now, even though America be showing her ass, when it happens involuntarily, she tries to hide it. See? So the Lord is using the prophets to expose everything that America already been doing. They show you on the TV, in the movies all the time. This is the shit they do. It's called predictive programming. But yet, when you call it out and you speak on it for what it really is, then it's like, oh, that's hate speech. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. But you're showing it though. How do you think we knew that this is what you do? Right? Because you show it, you tell yourselves. Right? So it says here, the Lord says what? I will take vengeance and I will not meet thee as a man. All right. In other words, he's not going to have no pity on you. There's not going to be a negotiation. You're not going to have the Lord sitting there like Rand Paul asking Babylon. So if this was to happen, no. That trial that's going on is what you're seeing right now. The prophets are the ones who are making a case against America, Babylon the Great. All right. Against the rulers of this planet Earth. Okay. And the Lord is the one who's sitting there watching it and listening to our case. And we have a great case. Any lawyer on earth will take our case. But guess what? We get the best lawyer on earth, which is Yahushua. All right. So this case is over with, man. We won this. All right, we won this. And Esau, you're getting sentenced to 1,000 years in prison. That you must have done some shit. 1,000 years? That's never been heard of before. That's a long sentence. It ain't even just life, because you could live to 50 years or 100 years and that's it. But 1,000? That means you keep coming back and you keep serving your time for 1,000 years. And it's not just okay, you're just in slavery for 1,000 years. You're getting your shit fucked up, man, for 1,000 years. Okay? You got this God complex. Ooh, it's about to get real interesting. Verse 4, Isaiah 47:4, it says, as for our Redeemer, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Hey, watch out, man. It says, as for our Redeemer, the Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Okay? Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Okay? You're being exposed. All right, so let's keep going, you hypocrite.
Countries become. We are bullying countries, invading countries, bombing countries, saying that we're peaceful. You know, Donald Trump saying he wants a Nobel Peace Prize as he's literally bombing countries, as he's literally threatening war, throwing a fit that he can't have a Nobel Peace Prize, doesn't understand why. We are a laughingstock, and the world is reacting by making bigger, better deals with China, cozying up with Russia, with China, with the rest of the world, alienating us. And many, after this latest stunt in Europe of trying to throw tariffs at them for not letting us take Greenland from them, take their land, the very thing that NATO was meant to prevent, Donald Trump throwing a fit saying give us Greenland has only alienated us from the Europeans even more. The Europeans are now saying the Americans cannot be trusted. The Canadians are saying Americans cannot be trusted. The Mexicans are saying Americans cannot be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just because of Donald Trump. They know that Donald Trump will come and go. But they think that there is a shift in the mentality of Americans, and that has gotten the world scrambling. Here is Peter Schiff talking about the decline of the dollar.
And the world is now pulling the rug out from under the U.S. The dollar's going to collapse. The dollar's going to be replaced by gold. Central banks are buying gold to back up their currencies. They're getting rid of dollars. They're getting rid of treasuries. We are headed for an economic crisis, again, that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a Sunday school picnic. The biggest difference between the crisis that we're about to have and the one we had back then is this one is all in America. It's not going to be exported to the rest of the world.
Right. Why? Because this is the judgment on America by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, and all these nations are going to play a role in that. All right, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 8, it says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood. And how did they war? Okay, all the wars that they've been through, man. It's not them that, you notice Trump is pushing all this war, but he's never served one time in the military, ever. It's always them niggas, man. Like there's an old saying that says, it says war. It says old men talk war. Oh no, it says war is old men talk, and death is young men's fight, or some shit like that. Like there's a quote that goes something to that effect, that war is something that's discussed by old men, but then the actual act itself is carried out by young men. And that's why this guy Henry Kissinger said that the military is filled with stupid, dumb animals for used for cannon fodder to forward foreign policy. Okay, so when you say you're gonna serve in the military, this is how they look at you. You're not fighting for no freedoms. What freedoms are you fighting for? Freedoms against from who? What freedoms are you fighting? Oh, we're fighting for our freedoms and our liberties and all. You have the Constitution, right? If you're in the military, you shouldn't be fighting wars in overseas countries talking about you fighting for freedoms. You should be fighting, making sure your government is not domestically violating your constitutional rights here in America. That's what you should really be fighting. That's the freedoms you should really be fighting for. Okay? But are they doing that? No. They're just going around doing the dumbass shit, fighting against the whole point of having a constitution, and in turn telling themselves, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, keep doing your job. Keep doing your job. Right? When this is all said and done, they're gonna ask you, ask you out. Okay? When AI takes over, all you military dudes are not gonna have no jobs. All right? Your president's gonna turn on you. Your government's gonna turn on you. Okay? So continuing, it says here, it says, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. All right, you committed murders all throughout, everywhere, man. Okay, by the millions. You continue to do so. This whole ethnic cleansing that's going on over there, what they call ethnic cleansing, genocide, right? Verse 9, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, right? Who's the one that's setting up, you got Elon Musk doing it. You got Jeff Bezos doing it. Okay. Many different companies doing it. You got a Space Force. All right. The Pentagon. Okay. They send their nest on high, right? They have satellites all the way in the heavens watching over the whole entire planet. Okay. And the satellites are set up in such a way that they interconnect with each other. When you actually look at it from a bird's eye view, it actually looks like a nest. Okay, like a bird, like a nest that's covering up the whole entire continent. Okay. So continuing, it says here, it says, to set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Right. And that's why they're trying to do all these things. They're trying to set up space stations and all that. Right. Because in their minds, they're going to escape over there when the destruction comes over here. Clown behavior. Keep going.
It's not a global financial crisis. It's an American financial.
Yeah. The rest of the world is insulating themselves and figuring out how to divest themselves from America. That's why I want to tell you about the sponsor for this segment, Block Trust IRA. Block Trust.
We got to get her money, but we got to move up a little bit.
Get more information at blocktrustkim.com. What's right for you? Okay, so I really recommend blocktrustkim.com. Okay, let's get to another example of why the world is losing faith in the United States. Here's Marco Rubio, again, being a hypocrite.
On the issue of our presence in the region, here's the baseline I want to set for everybody. The baseline is this. We have 30 to 40,000 American troops stationed across 8 or 9 facilities in that region. All are within the reach, theoretically, not theoretically, in reality, all are within the reach of an array of thousands of Iranian one-way UAVs and Iranian short-term ballistic missiles, short-range ballistic missiles that threaten our troop presence. We have to have enough force and power in the region, just on a baseline, to defend against that possibility. That at some point, as a result of something.
See, but that's the problem, though. That's the pride of this devil, right? I have the right to come into your border, set up my military garrisons over there, and then I threaten you by telling you that if you have any type of weapons that could fight against me being at your border, I'm gonna wage war against you. You're not supposed to do that. That's the arrogance of this devil, man. Okay, and they want the world to just go along with it. Just go along with it. Don't question this. Look at this clown ass nigga saying this dumb ass shit. Can you believe that? And it's always the weakest men that talk the most shit, man. Okay. All these niggas sold out. All right, all these dudes sold out, man. Right, the mighty men bowing themselves. They're all selling out. All right, this is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 12. Jumping down to verse 12, it says, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. Okay, when you read it in the NLT, it says, what sorrow awaits you who build cities with money gained through murder and corruption? Isn't that what you're seeing in the whole Gaza Strip? Okay, everything that's going on. Kushner, Jared Kushner came up, was it last week at Davos, and he was talking about the master plan, okay, that they've had even 2 years before October 7th. They had a master plan, okay? Shit, I'll say years before October 7th, okay? Years before October 7th. This whole regime change is all about the so-called master plan, ultimately to have something known as the Greater Israel Project be established out there, man. Okay, that's why they're destabilizing all the power that could possibly come against Israel in that area. And Iran is their last on their list. Okay, Iran is the last on their list, man. All right, so let's keep going.
The Iranian regime decides to strike at our troop presence in the region. The president always reserves the preemptive defensive option. In essence, if we have indications that, in fact, they're going to attack our troops in the region, to defend our personnel in the region. We also have security agreements, the Defense of Israel Plan and others, that require us to have a force posture in the region to defend against that.
Or here's an idea, I don't know, maybe get out of their region. There he is bitching and moaning and sounding the alarm and having a panic attack saying, oh no, Iranian short range ballistic missiles could hit our troops, meaning we are too close to Iran. If short range ballistic missiles can hit our troops and threaten our troops, maybe we're just a little bit too close from some place that, we don't really belong. We're all the way over here. They're all the way over there. If our troops are all the way over there, Maybe they want our troops gone. Is that unreasonable? Would we allow for their troops to be so close to the United States that short-range ballistic missiles could hit them? No, we don't really like that. It's not really. So it's that double standard. And the world is starting to see this double standard. The world is starting to see this insane viewpoint of, we can kidnap your president. We can be stationed. We can have troops surrounding your country. We can demand that you give up all of your weapons while we keep all of ours aimed at you. We can do all of these things. We can tariff you and bully you and demand your property. We can demand your land. We can do all of these things. And how dare you cross us? How dare you look at us wrong? How dare you say no? And if you do, we're going to come after. We're going to tell you.
Yep, that's what they got, neo-colonialism, right? And the scriptures speak against that whole colonist mindset. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, continuing verse 15. It says, "Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink." You're giving your neighbor drink. What's in that drink? What's in that drink? When you go back to I bring this out from time to time. You go back to the ancient Babylonian custom of the Chaldeans, which were the priests, okay, on the left-hand side, the priests of Baal and so on and so forth. And what they'll do is when they were initiating, all right, somebody into their occult ritual practices, they'll have them drink from a cup, a golden cup, okay? And within that golden cup was a whole bunch of mixtures that would intoxicate the person to the point where it will be easier for them to be seduced, okay? And then they'll partake in a ritual, and once the ritual is over, the whatever that they drank, it wears off, but they've done the ritual already. So you're doing it under some form of hypnosis, if you will, okay? So while you're doing it, even though it's wrong, it might be painful or whatever the case may be, you don't really notice it until it's done. And then they've initialized you into it. You've already swore an oath, all that shit. And then now you're like, wait, what happened? Oh, whatever. It's over with. It's already done. So now your time is to serve their best interest. If not, they'll just kill you or expose you, whatever the case may be. That's typically how these things happen. Okay? You're not signing an oath clear-minded. You're always under some form of influence. And that's how America does things. Okay, when they come up to the table to sign a contract with you, it's filled with a whole bunch of bullshit. That's why it's never going to be just one page. If you sign a contract with America, it's going to be hundreds of pages because they got to put all that bullshit in there, right? Americans really should stand up and say, yo, man, we demand any bill that's being put out to Congress to be brought into law must be just one page. Tell us exactly what you want on just one page. Don't let us read more than one page. All right? It shouldn't be no law that got to take 1,000 pages to write. Nah, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to see that. We don't want to hear that. Okay? And let them present everything they want to present. They want to keep you safe and all these different things. Don't give us 1,000 pages to read to keep us safe now. Continue in verse Habakkuk 2 verse 15 says, "Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also." Right? Sometimes you sit back and you wonder, like, so you mean to tell me that a country that is rich with all these natural resources is going to make an agreement with America to say, oh yeah, it's okay for you to bring your private corporations to come into my country and leech off of all these resources, and I don't get nothing in return, right? My roads are still terrible, right? My military is down and out. I can't really fight against you if maybe you were to breach a contract or nothing. I don't really have no power, right? My people are still in a very in a poor state. Okay, you're stripping them of all their resources, and then you put a puppet government in there, so the people can't really band together to say, okay, enough is enough. We've learned a lot. We've built up enough technology that we can set up our own shit and rule our own country by our own people. But you have a place like Mexico, but the president over in Mexico is a freaking J. Or you look at Argentina, and the president over there is tied to the J's, right? It's so crazy how that shit works, man. But how does it work? Because of shit like this. Okay? So you makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Right? Nakedness, you strip them bare. You take all their things away from them. Their resources, their identity, their power, everything. And then you turn around and say, oh, look at these people. They need our aid. We need to go in there and help them out. There's this one Jay. Shit, I forgot his name. He's such a devil. What he does is he goes to these foreign countries and he bankrupts countries. Man, that's some crazy shit. He'll go in there, he'll set up a whole false flag, if you will, and then make a deal with the president and say, listen, I can bail you out. I'll help you out here. And then once he buys your debt, he sends you to the court, international court, and say, oh, this country owes me, because he knows you can't pay back. Oh, they owe me. So what I want in return is more power over their country, more resources over their country, more access to their resources in order for them to pay me back. And then here you go. You be there for years. Next thing you know, you're like, how is it that we have all this gold and silver and this and that, but we ain't got no riches to pay for it. We ain't got no riches to show for it. Because you got these niggas coming into your country playing games with you. Verse 16, it says, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. That's what you're seeing. Okay? So everything Kim Iverson is saying is exactly what most Americans are feeling, but they just don't want to say it. And eventually when they start saying it, they're going to have ICE knocking on their doors. All right? Because you have the red list, the blue list, and the yellow list, man. Okay? The red list, blue list, and yellow list is all about to play out. We've been telling you this for years. All right?
Strongest military in the world, and you're basically going to have to die. We're coming after you one way or the other. Either we tariff you until you starve, sanction you until you die, or we actually bomb you to death.
Mm-hmm.
And the world is caught on to this, and the world is saying no. The world is pushing back on this. And this is why we're going to see the collapse of the dollar, according to Peter Schiff. This is why we're going to see, we're seeing countries turn around and say America's no longer the good guys. I mean, that is what's going to be so fundamentally different about this war with Iran. It's that the United States has completely lost its place in the world, completely lost our dignity, our integrity, the respect that we have of the world. We've completely lost it. When you travel around the world now, you have to apologize for being an American. When people ask where you're from, they know you speak English. A lot of them can't tell our accent from another accent. And so then when you say, I'm from America, then you have to apologize. That's where we're at in this world right now. You can't be proud to be an American around the world. You have to apologize for being an American. Much like an Israeli. An Israeli has to apologize. But because we were following their lead, thinking it was the right way to go, we've ended up as pariahs just like they have. It is not good. This is what will be fundamentally different about this war. This will impact Americans this time. We might not see the bombs, but we will see the devastation of the value of our money going way down. And that should be very frightening to everybody as the cost of goods go way up. And it's not Donald Trump's fault. This has gone on presidency after presidency after presidency. He's just following along. What is his fault is that people voted for him to be different. People voted for change. They didn't get it. People voted for that with Obama too. Didn't get it. So this is a stacked problem, but one that I believe that this next Middle Eastern war Americans are unfortunately going to very much feel.
Boom.
Thanks for watching this clip from the...
That's right. Okay, that's right. And that's because of this. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. So while they're mad, they're going to wage war against America. Okay? It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Right? We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. So regardless of you voted for Trump or Obama or whatever, hoping that America's problems will be healed, guess what? He came in and made it worse, like we said he will. Okay? He was put in there to be the one to bring America down to her knees. Okay? To fulfill biblical prophecy. Isaiah 14, we just read that. Come sit in the dust, O virgin daughter. How's that going to happen? This nigga done made it happen. Okay? Making enemies all over the place. Talking about he want peace, but yet peace on earth, peace on earth. But meanwhile, waging war all over the place. All right? It says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. That's what everyone is doing. All these nations, he had to set up tariffs for companies to want to come here to make business. If not, they were overseas. Okay? It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. All right? So that's what's coming, man. All right? When these nations make war against America to destroy her ass, that's exactly what's coming. All right? Let's end it off with the book of Obadiah, chapter Obadiah verse 6 and 7. It says, verse 6, it says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Okay, how is it all happening? Through the truth. All right, he's being exposed. He's getting that publicity that he doesn't want. Verse 7, it says, all the men of thy confederacy, right, your allies, have brought thee even to the border. Okay, the men that were at peace with thee, right, they made alliances with you. Okay, NATO and so on and so forth, right? That were at peace with thee have deceived thee, okay, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Okay? It says, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom? That's what you're seeing. A lot of people are saying, yo, what's going on with the American people, man? Right? It's like Trump doesn't have any smart person in his cabinet to tell him, yo, what you're doing is fucking up everything, bro. Don't do it that way. Right? Don't try to go take Greenland. You're going to fuck up the relationship we have with NATO. Don't go kidnap a Venezuelan president, because that's going to start a whole freaking shit. Don't fuck around with Iran. Like, you everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You everywhere but nowhere, really. You know, when the American people are looking for you, you know where to be found. He's playing games with them, right? It says, the Lord even destroyed the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau. Okay? And when you don't have wise men in your cabinet, you end up in a self-destructive state, and you destroy your whole entire land as well. Because those wise men are the ones to pull you back and talk some sense into you when you get too much on your high horse, right? Because a nigga like this, you know what I'm saying, not that many people could tell him no. All right, if you're not really that bold person to reel him in, he's just going, Nero. He's Nero. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. All right, even if it's going to cause, all right, a state of destruction, he's still going to do it. All right. So yeah, man, I just wanted to bring this out real quick. As you see what's going on, man, this devil is out, man. This thing is about to is about to take a turn, a sharp turn down the wrong way. Okay, you're going the wrong way, but you stepping on it real hard, man. All right, like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. All right, and that's how this devil came in. All right, sending you straight to hell, but telling you that everything is good. You're going straight to heaven. Don't worry about it. Just close your eyes, kick your feet back, and take this drink. By the time you wake up, you're going to be where you got to be. Meanwhile, the Epstein files is out. There's more to come. But anyway, I'm going to end it off there, Lord, when you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruchakudash, the water Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.